Welcome to Prompt and Circumstance, where four seasoned business leaders pull up to the round table and riff on the wild world of AI. It's human-friendly banter about code, culture, and CEO reality checks. Served up by Mike Richardson, Ryan Neiman, Mark Redgrave, and Tom Adams. No jargon, no hype, just real talk from four guys who've seen it all and aren't afraid to say what everyone's thinking. Pull up a chair, let's get into it.
Hey, our chairs are pulled up. We're ready to dig in. Welcome back to Prompt and Circumstance. We're glad you're here. In our previous episode, we celebrated the AI steak and the sizzle. Today is all about the stuck and the suck.
All right.
Wasn't that good? Wasn't that good?
Came to the right place. Love it.
I know. I had to bring it to start. This isn't what's wrong with AI. It's what's real and happening in business today about all things AI. Confusion, competing priorities, limited time, and more. It's about the AI resistance. That's where we're going today. So we're going to dig into that reality and talk about what's actually in the way and what's going on in terms of what we see. And, frankly, we try and see as best we can with the conversations we have. And so joining me today are two of my three regular co-hosts, the effervescent Mark Redgrave in the house.
Morning.
And the ebullient Ryan Neiman also with us today.
Ooh.
I know.
That sounds good. Thanks, Tom.
I'm bringing the words today. The reclusive Mike Richardson is otherwise engaged in changing the world. Mike Richardson and reclusive are very interchangeable words, as you might already expect. So
I got a message from Mike though. He's still prepared to receive compliments today, even though he's not here. So he did tell me that.
Well, that's why I said reclusive.
He asked me to say the words buggy whip. He said, as long as you say buggy whip for me.
Good. So we got Mike covered. That's good.
And I'm Tom Adams, your voluble host for today's discussion. How do you like that? Yes. So before we dive into the focus of the conversation, what have you guys seen this week? What are you seeing in the world of AI? All things interesting on your plate that have shown up to you?
Yeah, I spent the week in sunny Sydney, Australia this week, Tom. So got back a couple of days ago. They're just coming into summer. So actually beautiful. I go to Sydney like many times every year, but it was beautiful. Those of you who haven't managed to get to Australia and to Sydney, fantastic place. So I had a great week there. So a couple of really interesting things. My client is in the marketing and advertising space, very fast growing business. Clearly AI is absolutely the center of attention for them. A couple of really interesting things, which I think will inform the conversation that I kind of was very prevalent this week. The first is, like clients, so brands, that are advertising and spending a lot of money. It's like they want this, right? And they want this being AI, because they want efficiencies, because almost every client has some sort of constraint around spend. They've got so much to do. They've got so much ambition. They're always like a little bit constrained by, we've only got this much money to do this campaign to this audience. And I think the clients are leaning heavily into like, bring me these efficiencies because then we'll get more for what we do, which I think, is a obviously very important driving force in that industry. And the second thing is, very strong feeling this week, like we don't know it all, but new leaders are going to be made now. Yeah. Like new, so if you are and I think this is true of any industry,
yeah,
like this is an opportunity for you to leapfrog if you want it. Right. Because like in a situation where no one knows, like no one's an expert. And I do believe that. I mean, there's some guys who've been to Stanford and stuff, which is great. But like generally no one's an expert. This is an opportunity for you to grab the bull and go. So yeah, but I had a great week and woke up at 3 a.m. So excellent.
Beautiful. Ryan,
That happens,
what are you seeing? What's crossing your plate this week of interest?
Well, I have a topic of interest that I think builds on what Mark just mentioned. So I was preparing for the week, and I think it was late Sunday night, I got an alert that there's a Wall Street Journal article. And it was specifically called the AI-specific Matthew effect. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. Now, some researchers believe that AI might increase the productivity across a broad population of employees, let's say. and reduce those performance inequalities between star players and average players. And for the longest time, like literally 2 years, I've been talking about a Boston Consulting Group, Harvard Business School study. It's called Navigating the Jagged Technology Frontier. And that was like a study of 3 different groups, 100 consultants each. And in essence, no AI, AI, and AI with coaching. And the AI shifted the performance of those consultants 1 standard deviation to the right. And then with a
Hmm.
little bit more coaching about AI, it was even a little bit better in performance. And I thought, yeah, that's what we're going to see, and I've been talking about that paper for a couple years now. I'll use it as kind of an example of a good formal study from some notable groups about what to expect in releasing AI. Well, I haven't seen it. Right? I just think empirically, I was just like, I'm not seeing that happen. And we've talked on this podcast about, things like awareness or FOMO, fear of messing up, or we've talked about just that mindset shift. And this AI specific Matthew effect is written by Matthew Call. And it's a article in the Wall Street Journal on Monday. I did a little research on Matthew. He's a Texas A&M professor, and he speaks about this from a human capital management perspective. And I thought, oh, he named it after himself. And no, actually, the Matthew effect is from 1968. It's about how researchers that are more notable seem to gain more early advantage in the studies and how they continue to accelerate quicker. So it has biblical meaning to the
Hmm.
book of Matthew about those that have and those that have continue to gain and accelerate quicker. So people who already have advantages, like AI, tend to gain more advantages over time, while those who are less resourced have a harder time catching up. And I was like, that's
Hmm.
pretty good. It's pretty good. So call out
Yeah.
to Matthew Call. And his position on that. I thought that was very well done, and I think kind of empirically what we're seeing and leans into what Mark was saying. Getting started now gives you that early advantage, and staying resilient on it. It's going to give you some advantages over time.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Love that concept because it really speaks to I think what we're going to speak about today, but also what we're seeing, which is early adopters tend to be able to ride a wave differently than late adopters, right? Because by the time the new stuff is flowing, like you're already comfortable with the process and what's going on. I mean, my own experience of that this week. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I as we talk about, I just build stuff in the background just for fun. I don't know how to build software, but I'm building it. And I've had a
Wait,
really
hold
busy
on.
month.
And for everybody on the podcast, Tom does not know code.
Right, right. Thank you for taking Mike's role there. Um, but like I've been away for 22 days from my desk. I've been traveling. And when I came back, there was this one thing that I knew I had to do with that. And I loaded up the software and there's all brand new code. I mean, Claude came out with some new code. They came out with 4.5 and Codex from OpenAI's come out, and there's new stuff happening. But because I've been playing with it so long, it didn't freak me out. Like there's this cool new thing called plan in there. So I just type in, oh, there's this button that says, do you want a plan? And I go plan, and I say, this is what I want to add to this piece of software. And it writes out the plan, and I get to work with the plan before I had to engage the agent to fix the thing. But the point that aligns with what you were saying, which is I didn't go into panic mode like, oh crap, there's this plan button. Like I already kind of knew how to ride the wave, and now I'm just adjusting to the conditions. And I think that's
Yeah.
really cool in terms of what you said there. So
Yeah.
Good example, Tom.
There's something you just said a second ago that's interesting, which is like when prompts become buttons. Like I like that, right? Like there's a button now that's like the plan, and it's
right,
like I assume it's triggering some sort of prompt in the background, right?
yes,
But it's like that's good. Yeah.
yes,
When how do prompts become buttons? Because people love buttons. People press
yes,
buttons, right?
yes,
So
Yeah.
that's great. I need to check that out.
yeah,
Well, I can amplify what Tom was talking about, because for the longest time, I would actually type, do not change the code, and then say, I want to discuss
yeah,
this with you. And then now there's just a, push the button. We'll be in planning mode,
Yes.
query back and forth and come up with a structured approach to make changes. So it's
Oh,
exactly
it was
right.
brilliant because I was able to read the plan, whereas like literally a month ago I would say I want this to happen, and I'd go do it, and I'd go, wait a second, I wanted to make sure we were clear on it. Anyways, that wasn't my biggest thing, but I actually sent it to you guys in our chat yesterday. But I read something from Fortune yesterday. It showed up in my news feed from an article by Heather Conklin, and this is what caught my attention. It was a headline that said, "What nobody's saying out loud." I keep hearing the same pattern in conversations with executives. They have AI mandates from the top with no clarity on how to get their people ready, on top of everything else they're already managing. And there's this thing they'll only say in private: I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody does. And I screenshotted that and I sent it to you guys and said, this is what we have to talk about today, because I think it's the unstated message. Like I said at the start, like we're all excited about this, but the more I have conversations, and I know we all have people we talk to, and I don't want anybody who's listening to us to say we're talking about them, because we're not talking about you. We're talking about the consolidated group of people we have ongoing conversations about. But that's what I'm hearing. I don't know what I'm doing with this. And frankly, I don't think any of us do we?
Not entirely. No, I think.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks for coming. We're done here. That's it.
I think one of the topics I've heard is that not everybody knows everything. Everybody has a bit different perspective and a bit different specialization in the way that they're approaching it. Collectively, even us on this podcast, and we are in tune and challenging ourselves to be on the forefront and read as much as we can. I feel like I'm learning something new every day.
Oh yeah.
I think so. If we go back to Leadership Principles 101, right? We're all like quite experienced coaches and CEO whisperers and stuff. And it's like, so for seasoned leaders, seasoned subject matter experts, senior leaders, right? Confidence comes from knowing. That's it. That's how this works, right? And now then we when we're talking to to leaders, for years we've been teaching, sharing, the importance of vulnerability, right? And the importance of like, hey, you don't need to know the answers. And this was in the previous paradigm, right? But now we're in a paradigm where it's like nobody knows the answer. So
Right.
I play with this saying, which is like, where previously like your confidence came from knowing, I'm like, your confidence now needs to come from curiosity, right? You cannot get confidence through knowing. You need
Yeah.
confidence. You need to build confidence through curiosity. And this is quite this is a shift for leaders, full stop, right? We have been teaching it for 15 years. And it's like,
Right.
and now it feels like we're in like double down.
Yeah, double down.
Yeah.
And I'd add to that not only curiosity, but a sense of resilience. And I've seen so many times where somebody will try something, it didn't come out the way they expected, and then they just kind of stop. This is one thing that you want to double down on and continue to challenge yourself, to continue to learn and experiment, continue to prove out the value, continue to challenge yourself on your learning curve around this topic, I think is absolutely imperative right now.
Yeah.
So in that, in that, I guess the question that keeps coming up for me is, where are the stuck places, or where is this inner resistance? Because we don't know, but I think sometimes to give voice to what we're hearing in our conversations is helpful to those who just have this general uncertainty about it. And I think sometimes it's helpful to sort of dig beneath the surface and go, well, I see this and I hear this. So, for example, in a conversation I've had in the last week, something that sort of emerged for me was, yes, AI is this thing that we know we need to do, but I'm so busy right now with my normal life that I don't even have the capacity to be curious or to try stuff. Just the sheer volume of stuff coming at people is one piece. And And part of that for me is recognizing there's a whole bunch of people who don't know what to do. Because they don't even have the time to explore. We're consciously exploring here, but there's a lot of people I'm talking to who are going, and like I said, they're using a simple chat bot for conversation. But behind the scenes, the kind of stuff we've talked about historically, in our show, the last 5 episodes, is like try stuff, and they're going, I can't do that. Like, I just don't have the capacity. Are you seeing any of that, or what else are you seeing?
I definitely am seeing that, and the thing that comes to mind is make it a team sport. So find those around your organization, find those around your ecosystem, and start to share with each other what you're seeing in a purposeful way. Like even you mentioned, we have a chat that is amongst us to share what we're
Yep.
learning as we're going along in this journey. And I think finding a way to be purposeful in the way that you're sharing your own learnings with others and having them share with you the way that they're working differently, that they're finding sources of inspiration is absolutely critical. So, my
Yeah.
thought is make it a team sport.
Yeah. So building on that, Ryan, love that. And I think I mentioned this in a previous episode. I'm going to repeat it, right? Like
Yep.
the last 10 years of doing big transformation programs at large companies, people spend an awful lot of time trying to convince non-believers to believe.
Right.
I don't think that is the right thing to do, right? I look for coalition of the willing. So when you, Ryan, say team sport, I go coalition of the willing. So coalition of the willing, find the people that are on the bus, right? Go hard. Yeah. And like, because change in organizations comes from them pulling change through, not you pushing change through.
That's a good
So,
point.
That's good.
so I find that, and I think an awful lot of energy is wasted trying to convince people something in organizations, right? Don't find your tribe, find the coalition of the willing, and go for it, man, and let everyone look and go, that's cool. Like
I
that,
would
Mm.
agree
like
with
I want to
that.
be part of that.
Yeah, I
I
think
love that.
Mark, you as I reflect over the last 2 years or longer, there was a sense of convincing, and
Yeah.
I've almost I just don't have time for that anymore. I'm only looking for those that are in the coalition of the willing. I like that, and are already leaning in and looking for how do we now amplify? How do we get some direction and coordination and prove the value? And I think that's an important surround yourself with those that are thinking the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. The other piece there that strikes me is there's this other language I've heard out there, which is somewhat a sense of resistance. And so they bring the MIT study to the surface, which is 95% of these initiatives never work. And,
Oh, oh,
we've agreed that, yeah, or whatever that is. But the other thing I find there is there's also, and it speaks to your point, Mark, which is when you already have a preconceived notion of something that doesn't fully, you don't fully buy it, you look for all of the evidence to support your belief about it, and then you amplify that. So it's not helpful in a community if you're not finding the willing people, like if you're really missing those people.
Tom, you,
You,
you
you
hit my trigger button, which is the MIT study.
Yeah.
I heard it so many times that I decided to dive in on that
Yeah.
study and really understand it. And then I got to the end, and section 8, they did 52 structured interviews. 52 structured interviews. It is not a MIT high rigor study. It's
Right.
empirical, but people will quote that as if it
Right.
were like some large global multi-industry multidisciplinary thousands and thousands of touch points research. Now, I'm not discounting that it's not empirical, or not discounting that we shouldn't be watchful of what's going on, but should not stop you from moving forward. That doesn't
yeah,
mean 95% are going to fail all the time. It's going to get better and better and take into account the breadth or the limited breadth of that particular study.
Right.
So
It's section 8. Go to
so
section 8.
let's build on that, on those two ideas, right? So people will, get statistics to reinforce their worldview. That's cool. Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, if you go back to the point we said earlier, which is like, right, leaders, the confidence can't come from knowing. It has to come from curiosity and learning, right? So now just build on that again, and you say, so like leadership in the era of AI is less about knowing and more about learning. So that's like so it's like we have to commit to learning. So if you're a leader and you're going, like I have to know the outcome, I have to be sure that, like what we do is going to work. Okay, you're going to sit on the start line with your engine running, ain't going to go nowhere. So, like, as a leader, what you've got to do is you've just got to change your mindset to like, no one knows, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that always drives me is we do know where this goes, right? That nobody on the planet is looking at this and going, this is a fad. We won't be talking about this in 12 months. No one's doing that.
Right.
So if you subscribe to the view that's like, this is a thing, then it's like you have to get comfortable with learning, not knowing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think, Mark, building on that and actually hearkening back some words from Mike, right? We've seen this before. We've seen this with other technologies across internet, across SaaS, across cloud, across mobility, these technology disruptions. And it's not a short project. It's a journey. And one of the things that's unique about AI specifically in its different disciplines and variations is that it's having a broader impact, much more prolific impact across a number of industries, and it's unfolding faster than we've ever seen any other kind of technology.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Dan Sullivan, who runs a program called Strategic Coach, has this brilliant concept about confidence, and his structure for building confidence is really a three-step process to get there. And the first one is a commitment, right? And Mark, you've talked about this in previous conversations. You got to commit to doing something with this. So commitment is the first step. And then the second step he talks about, which I love, is courage, which is if you're going to commit to building something in this way for your business, then you got to commit to it. And then secondly, you have to be courageous, and you have to do stuff that you're not used to doing, that you're uncomfortable. We talked about that last time, skunk works and testing small experiments. But the third stage that I really love is when you have a commitment and you take courage, and courage is always messy and it feels awkward. But when you take courage, you get capabilities. You develop these small, tiny capabilities. And when you got enough capabilities, all of a sudden you get confidence, and then you got to go back and do it again. And to me, that cycles this whole curiosity and learning structure that we have to be in this world, because frankly, by the time you figure out what's happening today, something new is already coming down the pipe that we've got to address and face.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, what just went through my head, this could be a little tangential, but it's like, this, like, trust underpins this stuff, right? What you've just said, like, I use a trust triangle. Everyone has a slightly different version of this, but my trust triangle has capability, consistency, and selflessness, right? So, like, I only trust you, Tom, if I think you're capable, you know what you're doing, right? AI, no one knows what they're doing. Okay, problem. Yeah. Like consistency. So, like, do you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it? And selflessness, which is this concept of like, are you doing it for you or for us? Right. Those are the tenets of trust. So now what you've just said, put that into the trust triangle, right? It's like, it's quite challenging, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we're supposed to trust in a period of great uncertainty. We have to trust each other. Yeah. When we don't have the capability and the consistency is not there yet. So 2 of my 3 tenets of trust are building.
Mm.
So look, from an organizational design, from a leadership point of view, like this is why it's so challenging. I mean, that's a bit of a tangent, but right for me, this is why I love this shit. Right? Sorry, I didn't mean to swear, but I love this stuff because like all of these things we know and love around leadership are converging right now in front of our eyes in a very fast moving scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful and scary. And I think, Mark, you've talked about it, which is, build a cave or a thing that you just exit from this. But I think that's the challenge is we've got to kind of be eyes wide open in terms of this is coming at us in an unusually fast and trustworthy way. And sort of what I spoke to earlier, which is weirdly, the media tends to amplify what's wrong, not always what's right, because media tends to get response from stuff that scares us. And so that gets amplified all the time. And what we tend to work towards is, can we see through that muck and go, what do we got to figure out? What do we got to learn? How can we be curious about this? And how can we grow our capabilities and our capacity from that perspective through curiosity, which I love that whole concept. So,
Tom, I think you brought up a good point. Just that, and it is that mindset shift in your perception. One of the things that I've started to focus in on is those moments of joy. Like there's just people that start to use it, and all of a sudden, they're like, there's a sense of like that was actually a really good experience. Like, how do I do more of that? How do I lean in and find more joy in a job that I've been doing for a long time?
Yeah.
We talked about that, didn't we, on the previous one, which is like, and this is where that concept of like use it for personal stuff, because that brings joy, Ryan. Yeah. And it's a very good way to get people just into it. I've heard a number of people say that, like, get your team, like this idea of plan your itinerary for a weekend in Seattle, like things like that, right? Like it's they're good use cases. So Tom, I want to pick up on you used the word strategy a minute ago, right? Like this is really important as well. If you are a CEO trying to navigate this, okay, your your strategy is your strategy and must be held firm, right? Like AI and the use of AI is in service of your strategy, right? So do not blow up your business and your strategic planning process, okay, because of this. You need a solid strategy, okay? And then you need to figure out how to use AI in service of the strategy. I see some CEOs today that are kind of holding, right? They're sort of pausing, and you go, it's good to reflect, but it's like, this is in service of what you're trying to achieve as a business. So so that's another layer here, right? I think it's part of what we're seeing out there.
Yeah, and that I think also speaks to the fact that there's also a lot of people who are trying to insert AI as a element of their strategy instead of in service of, and that becomes really a challenging thing for people, like to because I've sat in on sort of planning meetings and they go, we have to add AI to our strategy instead of, no, we're going this direction. Can it be in service of that? Which to me is a massive distinction.
Yeah, that's super important. I'm sure the three of us are feeling this when we're talking to people. Yeah, I guess I was just responding to this genesis of an idea, which is like, why are people resistant? And it's like, you got to plan, right? If you've got a business, you need a strategy, you need a plan, then figure out like, how does new technology fit into that? And AI is a new technology. It's a big one. It's a fast one, but it's just technology.
Yeah.
Actually, thanks for apologize. I think my network connection got a little fuzzy there. I think where you were maybe just in the last 5-10 seconds. This discussion around AI is actually surfacing other challenges in an organization.
Yeah.
Because I've heard, well, we need to get AI. It'll make it better. But we've all heard before, if it's a if it's bad data, it'll only make it worse. If it's a bad process, it'll only make it worse. And so really rethinking the way that you're thoughtfully adopting any kind of new technology, and in any kind of variation of AI is absolutely critical.
And it's
Yeah.
in service of, Ryan, right? We dropped you just for a second
In
there,
service of.
but that was the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it needs, the strategy is the strategy. You need one.
I'm interested in all of our personal stuff on this, because generally the three of us are out trying to support others with how they think about AI and transformation and doing stuff differently. But I think a lot of times it's really helpful to voice our own struggle with our own resistance. The vulnerability of that, which is, where are you personally finding a level of resistance or uncertainty, or I don't know what to do personally? Because and I'll start, because I feel like I get into the place of, I'm down this path a long way, whatever that means, because I don't have any other paths to compare it to. I just feel like I'm deep in this well, and then I literally I go, I can't process anymore. My brain just can't handle the volume of stuff coming at me, and so sometimes I feel like I purposefully step back to just allow time to make sense of what I already know, let alone what's coming at me. And that's a personal thing for me, because I'm curious like crazy. And I think a lot of leaders and entrepreneurs and people who run businesses are insanely curious a lot of time. That's what I find about them. Like, they want to learn, they want to, but in my own life, I go, I'm insanely that way, but I'm done. I can't actually fill the tank anymore. And I need to give myself breaks so that I sort of have capacity to come back at it. What are you guys experiencing in that regard?
What comes to mind is pumping the brakes now and then in assessing the immense amount of change and productivity impact that I've seen. I think my friends, my family would talk about, that I do come back around to this. I think it was one of the first episodes where I talked about, there's this compelling sense to ensure those that I care about see this and are taking some steps forward, because I feel that it's that important for those that I care about. And so I think I've kind of hit this point where maybe I'm going to stop talking. I'm not going to talk about it at Thanksgiving. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess Tom, from my perspective, there's a couple of things that I'm quite aware of. The first is just be mindful of the media, right? So I'm trying to look for use cases and real stuff. And it's hard, but like, there's a lot of hyperbole. There's a lot of, it's great reading, but I'm not sure it's a good use of my time. And the second thing is, like, back to a comment we made before, which is like, if it's important, make it important. And this is true for us, but it's also true of a lot of the people we advise. Right. And I think a lot of the people that are hopefully listening to some of these episodes, because it's like, there's always an excuse for not doing it, right? There's always, and I find myself falling into this trap. Like, I have to find time for this. So, for example, this morning when we dropped the podcast, I'm off for a 2-hour session with a very, very good client. Not a client of mine, but an associate of mine who's doing a really deep, quite technical dive on prompting and how it's impacted his business. Very big business, multi-billion-dollar business. Because I've just got to invest in this learning, and it's like but I find it hard, because just like CEOs, we're all CEOs of our own small businesses. I'm really busy, but it's like, if it's important, we got to make it important, right? And you say this is clearly a once in a lifetime technology change we are sat right at the forefront of. Yeah. So I would say it's pretty bloody important. So I struggle with that, honestly, because there's always client work to do. But I'm like, if I'm going to do the right thing by my clients, I really do need to understand what's happening. So I struggle with that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to raise it, because it's easy for people to assume that we've got this figured out, and frankly, we don't. We're just willing to have the conversation, and we're deeply curious. And so internally, we all face our own resistance, because change forces resistance sometimes. Like massive change creates sort of the what is it, the sort of opposing effect, right? When something changes so rapidly, we have to go find our stability somehow, and that's evident in us, and it's evident in the clients we serve, but it doesn't force us to stop. And I just love, Mark, your concept of creativity. Just like be curious and look for opportunities to just learn something, small as it may be. Go into curiosity mode, and then find the people who are willing and who are excited about it already. Like those are the ones you want to kind of latch on to, as the people who are going, yeah, this is so cool, who can't stop talking about it at Thanksgiving.
I will tell you this, Tom. I feel better. Like there was a point in time where I felt maybe encumbered, maybe even challenged, or scratching my head, scared. I think I remember, Mark, you said there's some CEOs that are like, "I'm out. That's it. Like I'm done."
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm trying to get my head around this, and especially in the SaaS space or tech enabled services, it's much more pronounced. Satya Nadella said SaaS is dead in December of 2024. I think that was his quote. And I really didn't think or really understand it, maybe didn't even believe it. And then as this year started to unfold, I was like, oh, there are some underpinnings to that, and really understanding it.
Yeah.
And I started to think about that, there's two frontiers. There's the frontier of SaaS and going from systems of engagement to systems of action, and that unfolding and creating agentic AI experiences on a SaaS platform. That's a big undertaking. But there's also the internal changes to a SaaS or a tech-enabled services company, where you have to change the way you're engineering. You have to change the way that you're enabling go-to-market. You have to change the way that you're enabling operations. Those are big undertakings.
Yeah.
And then you look at traditional companies, and that adoption of AI, both the horizontal AI, enabling Copilot for a large group of users, or creating those vertical solutions. And those are large undertakings. And at one point, I thought, this is a huge tidal wave. Where's my surfboard?
Right.
I just was going to lean in and really start to think about how to usher it in, as opposed to watching it happen or being worried about it. It's like, let's get a forward motion going.
Yeah.
But let's bring this back to the essence of Tom's challenge, right? And it's like we are, we're aiming, the conversations we're sharing here at mid-market CEOs, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, when you're saying that, Ryan, I'm half excited and I'm half terrified still, right? So it's like, because you're making me rethink like everything about everything, and like I don't really, that doesn't make me feel good. So so like what I'm where I land is like if I am a CEO or a senior leader and I feel I have to get it right, I am in servo lock. I'm doing nothing. I'm doing nothing. If you are a senior leader and you instead say, right, like, I know we don't know, but we're going to start experimenting. Right. I know I'm not going to get this right, but I'm committed to experimenting. At least I have some fluidity. Right. Yeah. And I read this really nice quote the other day, and it was like, create an organization that rewards questions, not answers. And I'm like, this is where we got to be. Right. So like, I would really encourage like everyone, who is overwhelmed. We know that. We speak to enough people.
Yeah.
It's like, you've got to just have a mindset where, hey, you're in good company. Yeah. Nobody knows. You're like, nobody. Like, at Thanksgiving, no one's going to know, guys. So just like be the person who turns up around the turkey and goes, I don't know, but we tried some stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Yes. Well, I think that's actually a really delightful way to kind of wrap this. But Ryan, do you have any other recommendations for anyone who's listening for the next few days, the next week or so in their world to deal with their own resistance? What else would you say?
I don't know if it's something else. I would reinforce, create your team.
Yeah.
It's a team sport. Find those around you that help enable you, challenge you to work in different ways, or are also collectively looking at research and the news and media, and bringing those insights to you and helping foster your own journey on AI and your path forward.
Beautiful. And I would just wrap what everyone said with continue to be curious, just kind of be looking for things that grab your attention. But I will also add, be willing to make a commitment to doing what we've talked about, which is find a way to play with something, try something, do something, and then have the courage to step into the mucky uncertainty of it all and gain some capabilities. And that, to me, is the essence of what we're trying to do each and every day, and what we want to talk about to share with you. So thank you all for being here. We appreciate you immensely. Brothers, I appreciate how incredibly willing you are to share this journey with me, and thank you for your wisdom in that.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Great job, Tom. And we miss you, Mike, wherever you're at. Look forward to seeing you next week.
I think he needs to man up and come back. But anyway, we'll talk about that offline.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Thanks.
That's a wrap for this episode of Prompt and Circumstance. Thanks for hanging out with these four at the roundtable today. If you liked what you heard, hit subscribe wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And if you've got a thought, question, or AI hot take, send it our way. Find the bios for Mike, Ryan, Mark, and Tom, as well as show notes and more at the podcast website, promptandcircumstancepodcast.com. Until next time, keep playing, keep curious, and we'll see you in the next episode.